So, we've all heard of the internet, right? We all love it. We all use it. We use it for entertainment, for school, for work, everything. And I know from personal, I know everyone else probably feels this, like when you're watching a YouTube video, or you're scrolling through Twitter or Instagram, and then you get that little circle on your screen. You just get so frustrated to sit there and wait for it to load. And we know it doesn't happen very often, but when it happens, we get very frustrated. But can you imagine that happening all of the time, unless you're paying your internet provider, like 3 times the amount of money, or not 3 times, but like a lot more money than you are now. This is basically what's going to be happening with net neutrality being removed. And it's basically, if you don't know what net neutrality is, Mike Snyder from USA Today, he describes it as the principle of giving people free access, or not free access, but access to the internet under equal basis from their ISPs or internet service providers, without restricting it or slowing it based on preference or companies paying them. So basically, they have to give equal internet speed to everyone. So this is going to really negatively affect the small businesses and also like you in your personal life, and also it's also going to create a platform for internet providers and big corporations to pretty much control the internet like completely. So it's firstly going to affect small business negatively because it's hard enough as it is to start a small business, whereas if you're going to open a store, there's like a lot of costs that go into that. You also get name recognition, and it's very hard to like get started. But with the internet, small businesses have found a lot more success because startup costs are greatly reduced. You just need a website, basically an idea, and you can have a small business. And I know most of you probably see those ads on Instagram where it's just like, get this like shirt for like $5 or something. It's like, kind of annoying, but like sometimes I see something and I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool. Like I'll get that for a gift or something. So I'll open it, and like if it lags or if it's like taking too long, it gets complicated. I just like whatever. I didn't need it anyways. So with net neutrality gone, this is gonna it's gonna slow down those companies because they don't have enough to pay their internet providers to speed up their internet access for the consumers. So it's basically gonna be discouraging people from buying that because you're not really like motivated to like wait for the loading to happen. You're kind of like, well, I lost my interest already, so I'm just gonna go on to the next thing, go on about my day. It also gives internet providers to completely block those websites from being like easily accessed or easily found. So it's going to like reduce market size and the competitiveness of the market, letting big corporations get bigger and reduce small businesses in the market. The next thing is going to be the way it affects you personally. I know we all love our lazy days where we just sit on the couch, sit in bed, get like a hot chocolate, and just watch Netflix all day. But the only problem is with net neutrality gone, you're just going to be watching your screen buffering every 10 seconds because your internet provider isn't partnered with your Netflix. So the issue with that, or some people would like to argue that if your internet provider is slowing down Netflix, then just switch to an internet provider that is partnered with Netflix. The only issue with that though is most Americans do not have very much choice when it comes to their internet providers. Masayoshi Son, the CEO of SoftBank, described that 37% of Americans only have 2 choices in internet providers, 28% only have 1 choice, and 2% don't have any choice or have no internet providers in their area. So basically, that's saying 67% of Americans have a very limited to no choice in who they're getting their internet from. So if you have like say Comcast, there was actually a time before net neutrality in 2014 where Comcast slowed down Netflix to like it was like ridiculously so. It was basically crawling speed, and this was the New York Times. And the only way that they resolved it was Netflix had to pay Comcast, and that's the only way it got resolved. But with net neutrality, it creates a fair space for everyone to have access to that without having to pay for it. And I know a lot of areas, or internet is already expensive enough, but you know, we have a lot of bills to pay as college students. We don't have very much money in general. So all the bills that we have, like internet, Netflix subscription, all that stuff. Since Netflix is going to be paying the companies to speedline their service, they're going to have to raise their own prices, making us pay more for our internet, more for Netflix. All the prices are going to be jumping up because everything's costing everyone more. And so, moving on to how it's going to create a platform for big corporations and ISPs to control the internet pretty much. It basically is saying that the more money you have, the more internet prevalence you have in the internet. And so big corporations, they can pay internet providers to make their websites or whatever they're advertising to go a lot faster, to give it more recognition, kind of it's more, you see it more on the internet. And then they can also pay to block competitors. So say Netflix pays to block Hulu ads, or pays to block or slow down Hulu and speed up Netflix, or Hulu pays for the opposite. And like I said, you don't have very much options. So say you watch Netflix mostly, but you're in an area where only Comcast is available, and Comcast is partnered with Hulu. You can't watch Netflix because it's so slow internet. It's unwatchable pretty much. And it also provides a platform for political parties to control what we see. They can pay ISPs like Comcast or AT&T to block Democratic websites or slow them down crazy, and push Republican ads a lot more, or Democrat ads a lot more, whichever is paying. And it kind of provides a censorship almost, just what you can see, and that is a very strict. It's strict against our First Amendment right of freedom of speech, and is very unconstitutional. So after all these negative effects, it's obvious that net neutrality is very important in protecting consumers against ISPs and big corporations, and that the internet is so incorporated into our society. It has to be protected from big corporations, because without internet, it's kind of you can't be a part of society anymore. Internet is so ingrained in our society. It's essential to have fast internet to stay connected to work or just for entertainment. And so if this concerns you, which it really should, as because we use internet for literally everything, there's something you can call the Capitol switchboard, and the number for that is 202-224-3121. And that you just tell them where you're from, and they'll direct you to your senator, and you can tell them to vote no on the repeal for net neutrality. And there's also many websites that you can find against net neutrality and find out more ways to go against it, or to go against the appeal of net neutrality. And those websites are, for now, a quick Google search away.
Allie, what did you think?
I thought it was a really good speech because it's an issue that is taking place in all of our lives right now. That's kind of a big topic, I feel like, for everybody to kind of scoot more down into detail about what it is, because I've heard about the topic, but I haven't really heard the details about what it really is about. So I'm actually glad that you spoke about this, because now you've enlightened me to go and vote no on this, because it's actually really concerning, because a lot of schools do all their stuff through online websites, and especially assignments are now digital and everything is through the internet. So it's concerning for being a part of society, but it's also concerning for your education too. One thing I will point out though, you said a lot. So, but you didn't have any note cards, and you knew exactly what you were talking about, and you had a lot of good references, and I thought that you did your research and your practice definitely showed a lot, and so that was pretty cool because I think majority of us had note cards to look at. And your eye contact was really good. I felt like you were really talking to us and persuading us to vote no. I actually got the no that you said to vote no or to contact or whatever. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it.
Okay. Yeah, well, we did hear about it earlier today too, and so I think this is obviously an important topic. I thought that this was structured a little bit more like an argument. I do think that you need some better details on the evidence that you're citing. The whole thing about being able to pay to block your competition needs to be explained and more clearly documented. The censorship issue, I think, is also a little bit problematic. The first question that occurs to me is why don't antitrust rules apply regardless of whether or not there's a net neutrality rule, because that would certainly be anti-competitive behavior that would be covered under what we referred to earlier as the Sherman Antitrust Act. So I'm thinking, well, okay, what's going on here? The example of Netflix from before, I thought needed to be, like I said, I think you needed some details on that. The presentation of this as being about the big companies are going to get us. Well, I think it's you're picking and choosing which big company you want to be gotten by. Do you want to be gotten by your ISP, or do you want to be gotten by Google and Microsoft and those groups? Because those are basically the opposing sides on these sorts of things, and there's a reason that the companies feel differently about it, and I still think that we're not hearing quite as much of that argument as we need, but I thought that you did a pretty good job kind of explaining what some of the potential pitfalls are. We got to rush because I've got one more person that we're going to try and get in here. All right, Melody. And let me see, Melody's a make good from